today's video we're going to perform a small repair on my grandson's PW50. If you watched last week's video, you may recall I kind of mentioned the PW50 about the throttle. Long story short, he was riding around the house. You know, he just turned 5 in February and this was his birthday present. But anyway, he was riding around the house, ended up somehow hitting the neighbor's fence. This peg over here on the right hand side ripped it off, got that all put on, but he also tore off the throttle assembly. And we're going to show you how to actually repair that today. It's going to be a kind of a simple video, but felt the need, if anybody has a PW50 with a throttle or a selector switch problem, this would kind of be perfect for that, because that is what's wrong. The throttle is actually okay, it's the selector switch. It's broken on the inside, and we'll show you that right now. When he crashed, it totally ripped this off. I didn't just take this off. Now I did end up taking the screws out, but this is the portion that's broke. I have the throttle tube up there on the bench. We'll kind of close in here, and this might be able to be repaired, but it's really not worth it. You can get one of these new switch selectors, OEM product, for 32 bucks at Rocky Mountain ATV or motorsport.com, either one of those. Or you can find a Chinese knockoff on Amazon for $12. Now I went with the OEM because I don't like to use aftermarket parts unless they are an upgrade on any of the motorcycles. So I usually try not to go with any cheap Chinese, always OEM parts. But let's have a look at this. So here's the selector on the inside. You can see where it is broken. So when I went to start it, it would not start because it's not making contact with this contactor in here. I may be able to glue this back together and kind of cobble it up and get it working, but it's really not worth it. It will probably just cause me problems down the road. And again, for $32, you really can't go wrong. And here's the OEM part here. What's nice is it does include a new lever. You figure a new lever is usually $11 to $18 OEM, so that's nice. The only thing it does not include is the throttle stop screw, which this is a option. So if your little one is new to riding or you don't want them to ride as fast, you screw this in. It only allows the throttle to rotate so much. So his has it on there, and we'll just take that off the old one, which is right here. There it is. So we'll take that off and we'll be able to back that down, because I did have it back down a little bit. Oddly enough, I had backed it out a little bit right before he decided to crash into a fence. So I kind of blame myself. And same exact wiring, so don't have to do anything. All I have to do is essentially connect the throttle tube to this on the inside here, and we'll show you how to do that. And this little boot, we'll have to use that as well. Guess it doesn't include that. And then plug it up, and we should be ready. Also have to install the front brake line. Now, this is a PW50, so the brake line for the front is on the right hand side and the rear is on the left. We'll take a quick look at the new assembly here. Here's that contactor. You can see it's all one piece. It's all in between there. First thing we need to do with the old assembly is remove the throttle cable. It's got a rubber boot here. You slide that off, and there's also a rubber boot that inserts in here. You just pull it out. Once you have the cable removed from the old assembly, go ahead and get your new assembly ready. And you'll want to position it in the way that it's going to be in the bike. So it's going to be this way because this cable actually has a curve in it, has a pipe there. Also pull out the throttle cable a bit, as much as you can. That way when you insert it into the new assembly, you'll be able to actually see the cable right there. Put your rubber boot back on. This kind of holds everything together for the time being. There we go. Now we gotta insert the throttle tube. Now here's the original throttle with the throttle tube attached. It's actually in excellent shape, nothing wrong with it. And what you'll want to do is, kind of like magic, insert this all in here at once. So we're going to get some pliers, needle nose, kind of pull that cable out right there. Get our throttle tube into position. And this just slots in the top here. It's pretty easy to do, as long as you're not on camera. And this cable, see, it's in there right now, it actually rides this way. So kind of hold it together there and then reassemble the halves into the assembly here, which I think they call this the positioning bracket or the, I forget, the on-off switch. But it's actually the entire assembly. So when you look on any of the sites to get replacement parts, it may come up a little weird. So now we're going to go ahead, before we even connect the electrical, we're going to install it onto the actual handlebar. Now unfortunately, these were freshly painted handlebars. They were actually nice and shiny and new with clear coat. So now he is going to have one scratch that's noticeable right there, but that is what it is. So go ahead and put your assembly on, slide it in place, and then you'll want to tighten it up. Now don't pull. If you pull too hard this way, this is going to get caught up. And what I mean by that is, so you've got a lot of room here. You can put it all the way out here, which would be kind of weird, and put it really close. You tighten it up. If you pull it as hard as you can this way and tighten it up, it's going to put a lot of bind on this throttle. So kind of let it rest easy and then screw it down. That way you don't have a bind, which could cause your throttle to stick and could cause even more problems. And once you've got it where you like it, go ahead and crank down the screws. And to give you a better example of what I mean about binding, so now we've got it tight. See how it doesn't spring back to where it needs to go. It's just kind of staying there. You could get it too tight where it doesn't spring back at all. So if you're finding that is the case, go ahead and wiggle it a little bit. That's what you're looking for. Last thing on this portion would be the throttle stop screw. Go ahead and screw the nut all the way into the top. So you don't want it down far, you want it all the way up. This way you can get it in there, and you'll have to adjust this once you actually start it, maybe ride it, but you can see when you're tightening it down. So we'll hold the throttle wide open right now, and as we turn it, you can see the throttle moves in. That's as far as it goes now. We're going to go ahead and back it back out, because actually my daughter is going to test ride it. So I've ridden it before too, and it hauls me. I weigh almost 200 pounds, so go ahead and tighten it up. Tighten up the nut. Now if you don't need this feature on here, you don't have to even, you can skip this part. You don't need to do this at all. It'll just have full range of motion. The last thing to do is make the connections. You'll see the wires right here. There's only 3. There's a main harness and 2 butt and barrel connectors. So go ahead and connect. It doesn't matter what order. We're going to connect these barrel connectors first because they are a little harder to get to, just because you kind of got to hold one side. And an easy way to do that is take a pair of needle nose and just hold the one side while pushing this side. That way, there you go. Once you hear it snap in, you got a positive connection there. And same thing with this other barrel connector. There, that one's plugged in. And then last will be this one right here. And that one's got a little clip on the top. Now this next step is not required, but the factory strap, I'm going to go ahead and put it on. It was already on there. That's kind of what caused this rubbing, which I'm not even sure if you can see in the video. But we'll go ahead and install that. Last but certainly not least, before we start this, is the front brake, which again is on the right hand side. That's how these bikes are made. I've already got it installed, but I'll show you how to disconnect and connect it. So squeeze it as far as you can, pull. That's how you disconnect it. So to connect it, go ahead and put the barrel into the bottom of the lever and then just pull real hard. And if you squeeze it a little bit, there. And there you go. Now the moment of truth. We hit to our start button, make sure we got the gas on, pull the choke, and kick her over. It hasn't been started in quite some time, so. longer than I thought, but it's been over a month, and it was flooded last time that when he crashed it. So now it should start up really easy. Typically it's 1 to 2 kicks. Long to start, doesn't really surprise me because when he actually wrecked the bike, so it ripped off the entire kill switch. That's that system there. That's how you shut it, turn it off, everything. And there's no clutch, so you can't kill it that way. You could, if I would have thought, maybe pulling the plug, but what I had done is just stuck my hand over the exhaust and basically flooded it out. So that doesn't surprise me. It smells flooded, but it should start on first kick now. Let's see. There we go. So she's all set. Be sure to check out the links below the video in the description. I'll have Amazon links in there to just about everything I use, just about every tool I use in my garage. I will try to remember to put an Amazon link to the OEM part as well as a Chinese knockoff. I'm sure the Chinese knockoff is fine. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post those below. And as always, thanks for watching.